All right, click the links for Odyssey, BitChute to become a member of the channel, or join the subscribe to the various other Telegram, Odyssey, that kind of stuff. So this video is a little bit of an L for the right wing, but got to be somewhat fair in the coverage. So and if you're French, you're gonna think all non-French people are gonna share a certain similarity, and if you're Japanese, you're gonna look at French people and you're gonna have a hard time telling them apart. That's just how biology works. It's not that big a deal, but it's kind of a little funny that the guy made the mistake anyway. So Metal Gear Solid creator falsely identified as the assassin by a Greek media and the French politician. If you pay attention to the news, yesterday the guy was assassinated with a homemade Liberty device, probably using like black powder and fishing lures, something like that. Assassinations are not a good sign for global politics or local politics in Japan or anywhere on Earth. Assassinations is not an indicator that the country's you don't want that. That's not a stable country. You want elections and a constitutional republic, or whatever system you have. You want people following the rules, which is where the whole summer love 2020, where people were tearing down statues and icons and stuff, is not such a good thing. And then kind of even worse when Nancy Pelosi was saying, well, that's what people do, and then they put up icons of George Floyd, and where the guy was just a general junkie scumbag who did a home invasion. And then when those icons got spray painted and defaced, all of a sudden that's a big deal. And you're like, yeah, but in 2020, you guys were pulling down other icons. It's like suddenly you care. Or the Georgia Guidestones they damaged the one stone, right? And then quickly, the tractor comes in and takes down the rest of them. They said it was a hazard. It's like, all right, fair enough. It's unstable. It could fall. Fair enough. But and they took that down really quickly. Now I start to think about that and kind of wonder a little bit about that. Did they want to? They want less attention drawn to that, the better. I don't know. 1980. It's the guy used the dummy corporation to put that thing up, the Guidestones. Kind of interesting. Where maybe you live in interesting times is what we're living in now. So I wanted to show this image. This is what the guy, he used a double barrel, whatever, probably black powder and fishing lures to or fishing weights to make his up close personal Liberty device. But then he had this at home, which obviously he's not going to be able to smuggle under a jacket, which is this 9-barreled, probably a black powder device or whatever chemicals he can make in his home laboratory. But he used an electronic ignition system so he could fire off the 9 barrels in whatever sequence he wanted, which is pretty clever. It shows you the ingenuity of the lengths people will go to when they can't simply go to a store and buy a Liberty device. And it's just kind of something like, different parts of the world, you see different versions of this. In South America, they make these. I guess they have access to 12-gauge slugs, and then they build their own pump device where the hammer is like stationary, and they pump the first part of the barrel down into the receiver, and it fires. So it's only for extreme close self-defense, because you're moving the gun while you fire it. It's kind of bizarre, but it's like that's the tech they have access to in South America. And like, this is Japan's version of that, is an electronic ignition system. And I kind of wonder if America didn't have the Second Amendment, like what people would be doing in what gangsters would be doing in Chicago and Detroit and stuff with their own homemade stuff. Somehow I don't think they'd be using electronic ignition systems, but hey, you never know. Anyway, so the guy was quickly identified because he was right there. He was up close and personal. He immediately got arrested, taken into custody, and probably fingerprints or retinal scan and stuff like this. So responding to the tweet by French National Assembly member, and some watching political fights from around the world's a trip. Even there was a Japanese one where they had their House of Congress where they actually had a physical fight, which is freaking bizarre to see adults lose their minds that much. Expecting to pull out swords or something. So she says, observed, I learned of the death of the prime minister. I didn't share any of his political positions. He was, I guess, a nationalist, a little bit further right. But the crime committed is unforgivable. Yeah, assassinations are not good. Thoughts of Japanese people. Then the far right political, and calling European politicians far right is, you look at them and you're like, yeah, press F to doubt. I don't think there's a lot of far right anything in Europe. They're basically made those opinions illegal. There's a YouTube video. I don't want to reference it. It's where there's I think a retired general who's giving this interview, and the reporter's trying to get him to say something that would get him in legal trouble, and the general's just not giving the answer that the reporter wants. It's friggin' hysterical. You probably know what I'm talking about. But anyway, so far-right politician shared 3 images of the video game guy. One of them wearing a classic Cossack hat, which, who's that? In the White House, Joe Biden's press secretary lady, the red-haired girl. Just picture her with a Russian hat and the hammer and sickle or something. God, at least she can answer questions. The girl they have in place now seems like she has no idea what she's doing or where she is. She goes, I wasn't aware of that. Oh, yeah. You know, Biden's giving the strategic oil reserves overseas. I was not aware of that. If that's true, I'll investigate. So she basically called the reporter a liar, but it's, all the reporters there, they all know it's true. It's widely reported. Everyone in the White House, all the reporters, they all know, like, yeah, Biden gave these strategic oil reserves over to Europe for some reason. Well, America is undergoing this petroleum crisis, and so the press secretary, I forget her name, the new one, not the Jen Psaki one, says, well, if that's true, it's like, shut up, you stupid, shut up. You know it's true. Either you know it's true, and you're lying, or you're negligent in your lack of knowledge about what's going on with your president. But that's God, what a horrible job that would be, to be a press secretary for Biden. The guy's, he makes statements, and then you have to go the next day and say, yeah, he didn't actually mean to threaten Putin and call for the assassination of Putin, even though that's clearly what he implied. Anyway, so she shows these pictures of him wearing all this kind of Che Guevara Japanese energy drink. I guess the video game guy, the Metal Gear Solid guy, is a far left whack job, and then says that the far left kills. Now, obviously, the far left does. There's no shortage of the history of the bomb throwing Bolsheviks to examine, and you've seen in America politics, Antifa and BLM for the past several years. I think they've deleted. I think 4 people have died because of the BLM Antifa riots, which, fair to say it's a far left violence. So yeah, there's no shortage of that. But this is just kind of so she calls the extreme right is istophobic because he made a mistake and posted these pictures of the video game guys. Whatever. Easy mistake to make. I mean, if you didn't do any research at all, it's an easy mistake to make, to think that this video game guy is the guy who was arrested. It's like, I mean, you could have compared the names. It would have taken you a minute, but whatever. Anyway, I thought this was a trip. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.